Mr. Gigliotti, you were going to the post office.
Yes, Your Honor.
You were driving.
Yes, Your Honor.
According to your complaint, you got to the post office and looking for a place to park, and all the parking spots were taken.
It was about 10:40 in the morning. I drove into the parking lot. I noticed there was no spaces available. I looked over the parking space for the handicapped, and there was a car there, and I noticed that it had Louisiana license plates that were not handicap provided. I also looked at the front mirror to see if there was a placard there.
So you got out of your car?
Yes, I did. And then I went back to my car and took out a Polaroid camera, and I took a picture of the car and my car as it was seated in the parking space for the handicapped, and then I wrote down the license plate number. And I also noticed when I was around front that it had a Navy parking sticker on it. So I copied down the number of that also.
Okay. So far, what you were doing is you were outraged that somebody parked in the handicapped parking spot.
Exactly, Your Honor.
Okay, so then what did you do?
Well, as I was writing down the license plate number from the car that was parked there, it was a black Plymouth, a woman came out of the post office, and she started yelling and screaming and waving her arms. She was waving her arms like this. And she said, you move that car, I'll move you.
What do you mean? I don't understand. Why did you have to move your car?
I had pulled in behind the car that was in the parking space in order to get out of the driveway, because the driveway was right next to that parking space. I pulled in behind it.
So you blocked the car?
Yes.
Now, when you looked inside the car, did you see anybody in the car?
I didn't notice anybody at that time, Your Honor.
Okay, so you had now blocked the car, and the woman came out and said, you better move the car.
Yes.
What did you do?
She was yelling and screaming, and I was absolutely certain that she was going to cause some violence. So I walked away from her and walked into the post office and called the police.
Why didn't you just get into your car and move your car?
I didn't think I had that much time. She was coming at me rather fast, rather loud.
Order.
Yeah, go ahead.
And while I was waiting in the post office, Miss Corbett, who was going to be the witness, came in and said, is that your car with the handicap placard in the parking lot? And I said, yes, it was. And she said, that woman just keyed your car. And I went out to the parking lot to see if I could see where she had keyed the car, but she was still walking up and down between the two cars, yelling and screaming and throwing her arms around. So I didn't go out there. I just waited until the police came. And when the police came, I did go out and I inspected the car, and it had been keyed, the entire driver's side.
Okay. You do have handicap plates on your car?
I do.
Why is that, sir?
Because I have a back injury that limits my ability to walk.
How long have you had that back injury?
2.5 years.
And how long have you had the handicap plates?
About 1.5 years.
Mm-hmm. Step up, please.
Yes.
Can you tell me your name?
Yes, I'm Janice Corbett.
Miss Corbett, I assume you work in the post office. You're the postal worker.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see this lady key his car?
I saw this lady do a keying motion to his car.
Describe what you saw.
I saw her talking with another woman and some children, and she had her keys in her hand. She was frustrated. Then she went to the side of his car, and her arm turned. I could not actually see the key in her hand at this moment, but her arm was turned so I could see this part, and she walked stiff-armed alongside the car.
Okay. Ms. Kemp?
Yes.
According to your complaint, and you have a countersuit against the plaintiff for unlawful imprisonment of both you and your children, who you say were in the car.
Yes.
How many children did you have in the car?
3.
How old are they?
At the time, the twins were 4 months old, and Nicholas was 5 years old.
Okay. What were you doing at the post office?
I went to the post office that morning to mail a few letters and to purchase stamps. I did pull in to a handicapped spot. Yes, I know that was wrong, but thinking that I would be in there 2 to 3 minutes, I knew I would be right back out. I just didn't think there would be a problem. So, and I was in a hurry because I went there before I brought Nicholas to school. So we went into the post office, my kids and I did what I had to do. I stopped at the front counter to make out some things on the...
How are you holding the twins?
They were in a stroller.
So you actually took them out of the car and put the twins in the stroller?
Yes.
And Nicholas was with you?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we went into the post office. Like I said, on the way out, I stopped at the desk to put the stamps on and all, so I did that. We went back to the car. He said I was waving my arms. I didn't even recognize him because I was in such a hurry to get Nicholas to school, but I got in the car. As I looked back to see if my pathway was clear, then I realized he was parked behind me. So that parking lot is really small. So I thought maybe he was just trying to maneuver his way out of it. He didn't move. So I just sat there and waited a second because I didn't really know what he was doing. So he didn't move. I saw him come out of his trunk with a camera. So he started to take pictures. And so I didn't think anything. And then I looked up and there was this handicap. I said, okay, I know what he's doing and I know what I did. So I got out. And I was not enraged because I knew I was wrong. I became upset when he said he was not going to move. So I waited until he was done with it because I thought that would be the end of it. He's taking pictures. This is his evidence. They'll give me a ticket. That was not the end of it. So he went into the front part of his car to do what I don't know. So that's when I took a step to the back of my car and I asked him, would he then move? He said there was no way in hell he was going to move, and he was the person that was yelling. I was not yet upset because I wasn't quite sure what his intentions were yet.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
When she came out, she was so violent that I was absolutely certain it was going to get into fisticuffs.
I don't believe you, sir. I don't
She's
believe
got 30
you.
years and 30 pounds on me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerome Gigliotti says Monica Kemp slashed his tires and keyed his car in the post office parking lot. Monica says Jerome blocked her car so she couldn't pull out, leaving her and her children trapped.
You knew you had done something wrong.
Right.
But you knew that what he was doing, that he was gathering evidence so that he could present it to give you a ticket.
After a while.
Okay.
And he told me there was no way in hell he was going to move. I then started to tell him that, you know, I had to get Nicholas to school. I informed him that I did not have any more formula for my kids because I didn't bring any because I was intending a quick trip to the post office and to school.
I assume you were pretty hot at this point, Ms. Kemp. I assume you were.
I was not angry yet because I thought once I told him that, he would move. And I offered him other information of mine. I told him he could have my driver's license number. I did notice when he came to the front of the car, he was copying down my military information. I asked him, didn't he have enough information? He was ignoring me. When I offered more information, he ignored me. And at this point, when he started to walk off, I was like, I don't believe this. You are going to let us out, aren't you? And he just walked off. And so there was another woman who came up and she just started to ask me what was the problem and are you okay, because by this point I had become extremely emotional because it's like, okay, this man is not going to move and my kids are in the car and it's hot and they were starting to cry and I was just really upset. I was scared. So she tried to calm me down. She went in the post office and she asked him to move. And
Did somebody else come into the post office and ask you to move, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why didn't you?
I told her I wasn't going to go out there so long as that other woman, Miss Kemp, was out there.
All they wanted you to do was move the car.
You
Sir.
did not see the condition that she was. She was yelling and screaming, waving her arms, and there was no way I was going to get into a fight with her.
what was I going to do, throw a baby
second.
at you?
Just a second.
I had a baby in
Just
my
a second.
arm.
You know that all she wanted you to do was to move your car. She wasn't going to get into a fight with you because if she got into a fight with you, she couldn't get her kids in her car out. Come on, sir. Let's be honest with each other. You were very angry that someone had parked in the handicap spot that was really reserved for you. Now, I can understand that. I can really understand that. There's nothing to suggest that you did anything wrong in taking down the license plate number, copying down the Navy information, taking a photograph of her parking in that spot. I'm telling you now, I do have a problem with you blocking her car, especially when you knew that there were children with her, twins, under 6 months old, and her son. I do. I mean, you came into court today not in a wheelchair, sir. You didn't come in a wheelchair and you didn't come in a stretcher. So I don't know how come it is that you got a handicap parking placard. I have difficulty walking too sometimes. Nobody's going to give me a handicap parking placard. Right? Even a bird here sometimes gets tired, right, Bird? So, can't get a holier-than-thou approach to life, sir, and look at everything reasonably. I mean, this is a situation that was a fast-paced situation, but try to have a little understanding. She was prepared to get a ticket. You could have seen to it that she got a ticket, but you went a little overboard. Now, that doesn't excuse the fact that you keyed his car.
I did not key his car.
Somebody keyed his car. Let me see the pictures of your car. Come on, Miss Kemp. So far, you've been very honest with me. So far, I believe you've been very honest with me.
I have been.
That's right. Xeroxes. Yeah. And aside from the scratch marks on your car, you also had a blown tire, is that right?
No, Your Honor, it wasn't blown, it was
What was it?
slashed. I have a cast of the tire here that shows it's a very neat cut. And when I took it into the tire repair place, they said they couldn't patch it and that it had gone about ½ an inch into the tire. And it's a very narrow cut, so you can see there was a cut and it wasn't road damage.
If it was cut, you must have cut it, because I didn't.
Let me take a look at that, please. Well, it's kind of hard to slash a tire with a key.
May I say something?
Sure.
I would like to know if his tire was slashed, how did he back out to let me out? How did he get out?
I just said to you, I don't think he can establish through any witness that he has today that you did anything to the tire of his car. That's not what this witness said. Miss Kemp, look at me, dear.
I'm looking.
Keying his car. Saying, Miss Kemp, I'm not suggesting to you that the situation didn't enrage you. You had a right to be enraged.
I know.
I believe you had a right to be enraged. What you did was a violation. Sir, what she was engaged in was a violation. I find it disingenuous on your part to suggest that you feared for your life, and when you called the police, you said that a woman had just assaulted you, because that's what you wrote in your complaint. This woman never assaulted you. If she came out swinging her arms and being very agitated because her car was blocked, that is not an assault.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an attorney, Your Honor.
You must have a very slow practice.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jerome Gigliotti says Monica Kemp did damage to his car at the post office. Monica denies she did anything wrong and says Jerome overreacted by blocking her car for 2 hours.
Let me explain something to you, sir.
You need help.
What you found was a violation. No different from finding somebody parked in front of a fire hydrant. Same kind of violation. The action that you took was not in direct proportion to the violation that you observed. Once, sir, you observed this lady and her children. She had 3 little kids. Wisdom would have been the better part of your action, and if you would have said, I now have the proof to take to the police, this is her car, this is this, she is going to get a ticket for parking in a handicapped spot, which was clearly wrong, you and I would have had no problem. And if she vandalized your car, which I believe that you did, Ms. Kemp.
I see that, but I
Right.
didn't.
Yes, you did. Your action was not responsive to what you saw, sir. You did not exercise good, mature judgment. Good, mature judgment would have meant, once you saw what she had in the car, which were 3 small children, you pulled the car out, let her leave, report it to the police, go to the Army barracks, do whatever you wanted to do in order to see to it that she had to pay an appropriate fine. It would have aggravated her enough to have paid a fine. What you chose to do was to create and incite a situation by blocking her car. That was dumb, stupid, and I guarantee you, if she had been 6'4" and a man walking out of that post office, you would not have blocked the car. No question in my mind, you would not have blocked that car. So,
Your Honor,
I have
pulled
a
in,
loss.
I didn't intend to block her car.
Well, you
I
did.
intended to take down the information.
You
When
did.
she came out, she was so violent that I was absolutely certain it was going to get into fisticuffs.
I don't believe you, sir. I
She's
don't
got
believe
30
you.
years and 30 pounds on
I
me.
don't believe you, sir. All
30
you had
years,
to do,
you
hey,
wish.
all you had to do was
Look
get
like my
in your
great-grandfather.
car. You had already taken the pictures get in your car and leave. And she, with her 3 small children, was not going to assault you. And you will never convince me otherwise, sir. Never. So, you have a lawsuit, and you are suing her for $5,000 for illegally parking in a handicapped space.
Your Honor, I later found out that she lives 1 block from the post office.
And?
Just a second.
She
My
could have
son-
walked home if she wanted to. It's 1 block away.
And you
Sir
could have
Shay,
moved.
please don't respond to him.
You're right, I shouldn't.
Shh, please don't respond to him. First of all, how did you find out she lives a block away from the post office?
I took the license plate down and I used the DMV in New Orleans, in Louisiana and Baton Rouge to find the registered owner. And then through the Postal Service, I obtained a forwarding address from that address to the address in San Diego.
Do you work?
Yes?
You wouldn't
What kind of
think
shop?
so.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an attorney, Your Honor.
You must have a very slow practice.
Yes. That's what I think.
Because if you took the time over this nonsense
Yes.
that you have just told me about,
Yes.
you'd be far better to donate some of your time and some of your energy, sir, to the poor. I was sympathetic to you up to a point. There isn't a soul who drives a car that isn't infuriated when they are driving around and around and around and looking for a parking space and see somebody who has abused their parking privilege and parked in a handicapped spot. Not a soul who's driven a car who hasn't had that kind of frustration. You took it a step too far. And she has a cross complaint against you for $5,000 for unlawful imprisonment for a period of well over 20 minutes. Is that what it was?
No.
How long?
It was like 3 hours.
Until, from the time he blocked your car until the time the police came, how much time elapsed?
From the time he blocked me until the time the first set of police arrived,
How many sets of police arrived?
they had to call someone else to make him move because he, and that's on my cross complaint also, about the intentional infliction of emotional distress. This is when my son became emotional because he would still not move. They had to call someone else to make him move.
Why wouldn't you move when the first set of...
He wanted me arrested.
Why wouldn't you move when the first set of police came?
The first set of police never asked me to move my car.
I heard him.
Well, you were no longer in fear.
They
That's
never
true.
asked.
Just a second. You were no longer in fear, sir, because you now had police officers around. Why didn't you just move your car?
Because they didn't tell me to. All they wanted to do was talk to me.
He's lying.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
I believe you keyed his car. Right? Let him fix it. I believe that your children suffered during that period of time. And I assume you'll never park in a
I
parking
haven't even
space
been
again.
back to that place.
Never. Your complaint is dismissed, and your countersuit is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.